Go on, ask us something.
Alright. Not having heard this album yet.
You haven't heard it at all because it's been around.
But he said he didn't have no tapes. Despite various people I know.
We'll get you one, don't worry.
It's, I mean, from what I heard, it sounded different. I mean, it's going to be different anyway because you haven't got wobble. But I mean, how did you go about doing this one? You know, like, building
it was just me, John and Jeanette in the studio.
Did you do the drums and stuff yourself?
Did some of the times. Oh yeah, it was Martin as well, Martin, who went on tour with us. Anyway, the way we went about this album was we went to the Manor and we were booked in for 10 days and we kind of knew it was like we were doing a new album and we didn't do anything for days. We couldn't do anything. It was like this horrible mental block. And then after wasting 7 days of being waited on and booked, just being real lazy cunts, and we really tried. I mean, you know, that was the thing. We really were trying, but nothing was happening. It was something to do with the Manor as well. You know, it was a lot to do with the Manor. But we got one track down, which has come out. It's called Home Evening, and that was the first thing, solid, definite thing we got laid down. I remember at the Manor, painstakingly for 2 days trying to kind of redo a track that's on the other side of the single now, called Home Is Where the Heart Is. And I was using a loop instead of wobble, which I recorded 4 notes on, which was the baseline wobble we used to do anyway. So we had wobble as a loop. And it, you know, I was trying to get the drum beat to it. Anyway, this didn't fucking work. And then after that, what happened was I went in the studio, I was tapping on the tom-toms, and I don't know if I relaxed a lot or what, but we ended up, we recorded what I did on the tom-toms. You know, I said, "I Mick, record this," and they recorded it, and it was just this beat, and then I put this instrument on it. Anyway, it carried on, and we ended up with this thing called Home Is Where, which had a certain feel about it. Well, we had certain definite. We always know what we don't want with music. I don't know if that's a like positively negative way of working or what, but it just seems to be the way we work. We know what we don't want, and therefore we've got no restrictions on what can come out. You know, so anything can come out. If we don't want it, we don't use it. If we do want it, then great, we leave it on there. So anyway, so we wasted 10 days at the Manor, but we got a track out of it, and then ended up somewhere else recording. I think it was a town, and I can't remember the order of things, but
Do you want to quote?
yeah, it's a good quote.
Okay, John prefers stumbling fragment conversation, whereas Levene, when he starts, when he joins in, sounds like a well-drilled PR rapping machine.
Fuck you.
There you go.
As you were saying.
As I was saying, I can't remember the order of things, but there must have been some development. I remember going in there, and all I remember was we went in there and we knew that we were going to concentrate on the drum sound. So we set up the drums, right? Because we've always got to set up the equipment. So we set up the drums and spent fucking ages like getting sounds. And you know, we ended up inventing just, not what we invented loads of things, but we just ended up with like 16 tracks, right? You know, and there's only like 5 drums there, so like whatever we came out with, there was a lot of fucking scope, a lot of sound variation. It all had the feel of the album, which is, I mean, for want of a much better expression, like tribal. It's got a tribal feel to it. You know, people call it ethnic tribal. I mean, if you think of a better term, I'd like to hear it. I'd say just very, very acoustic feel instead of all that fucking compressed disco stuff.
Yeah.
Or you know that crap. Right? It just had a really good a real good acoustic, very human feel, but very fucking heavy and very loud, right? And we wanted that anyway. so we were most of the tracks started off with drum tracks.
Rather than putting the emphasis on electronic gadgetry, it's all on natural sounds.
Yeah. Even if the natural sounds came from using electronic gadgetry, you know, it's like if we were using a synthesizer, we weren't using like fucking filters and things like that to get electronic effects. We were getting like, you know, we were using electronics to create like acoustics. And anyway, so
which is what they were originally designed for.
Sort of amplification, really, rather than treating.
well, we were treating the sounds, but we were getting like coming up with like an untreated result. It sounded like an untreated sound, you know. But so you know, all the tracks were like started off with drum tracks. Like Martin, I did some, and Martin did some. I can't remember what I was telling you.
Well, the sound, building up drums and stuff.
Yeah, what you said was, what was it? What was it? No, I can't remember what you said. What was the question again? Because then
Well, you were saying about the building up drum sounds, but you
I know.
You weren't messing with synth drums and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I was saying, but what was the question? Can you remember?
Well, I said something like you were amplifying sounds.
No, before that. So how did we go about it?
Just told him.
Yeah, you just told me why we can't go about it like that anymore.
Because you don't want to just... Metal Box seemed to be a sort of, you know, you did all that in that area.
Metal Box was just a load of material we did. It was like, Metal Box was really me and John finding out about how to use a studio. It certainly wasn't Wobble finding out how to use a studio. It was Wobble finding out how to nick songs that we discarded after.
You know, one of the annoying things about Wobble was that he wouldn't take part in any of the mixing. He'd leave.
Yeah.
He'd do the bass line, he'd leave.
He'd suggest a stupid idea, right? And when when he got ignored, right, he chose to say that, you know, that we never let him do anything. But it wasn't. It was, his ideas were so fucking off the wall and stupid, right? You couldn't try them. And the way it ended up was Wobble worked on his own and me and John worked together. And we never had a kind of a drummer for long enough for us, you know, for us to take any notice of whether he was there or not.
You don't need him if you're not playing live anyway, do you?
Yeah. Anyway, so Martin done some of the drumming and I done some. John did a fucking lot more instruments. I mean, he always does singing, like, but he did. There was like more instrumental contribution to this album than anything before. I mean, he was always there on the mixing, but the actual laying down thing, he got a lot more involved in that, more involved than I did. I mean, hence the lack of guitar. I mean, I was like, there was like a main 2 weeks that we were doing this album somewhere. I think it was in the townhouse, and we were just in the studio for 2 weeks, and it was like we had this fucking great drum sound. We had all these tracks, and we were working on different tracks, and I was kind of racking my brains. What can I put on this? What can I put on that? And kept listening back to them. And like anyway, on the last day, you know, we knew we weren't any more time for a bit. So we were like finishing them off and putting things like the cassettes and putting things like the quarter-inch tape. And it was then I realised that, fuck it, that's it. There's no room for anything more, you know. And that was a track that might have had like, you know, the drums, a noise and John's voice, and that's it. And that's a whole track. And there's no room for anything else, you know. So there's like a very, very, very focused sound coming out of what we were doing. I suppose because Wobble wasn't there. I mean, the way we used to work a lot of the time was because, you know, well, I don't know, yeah, because we're lazy cunts, I suppose. You know, we were just sitting there and watching videos, and I was playing with video machines while you watched videos. And like, you know, we'd end up like, oh, we got to do something, and Wobble would start with the bass line and we'd take it from there. And, you know, I won't bother to say Wobble, but so that's how we used to do it. And because that element wasn't there, then we were just starting off things differently and going about things differently. I mean, there is bass on, I think, one track apart from the one that John both the bass on Flowers of Romance, the actual track Flowers of Romance. And apart from that, there's bass on Banging the Door. And I remember laying that track down. Martin played the drums and I played the bass. And what it was, I feel like I discarded conventional guitar. I mean, I thought guitar was redundant. I hated it, but still managed to use it, and it came out differently. And that was good for like up to the Metal Box, you know, because like that live album was just a live album of what we'd done in the past. Yeah, I mean, I only used guitar on one track, which was called Go Back, and it's a great little guitar line. It is a funky track actually. It's turned out to be a funky track, but I used it once on this album, and it never occurred to me to use it. You know, the time I used it, like when I used it on that track, it just fucking worked great. And there's a bit of backwards guitar on the track called Finargan, which is more, you know, it's more use of sound than guitar. You know. I suppose the way we went about this album all stems from the way we went about Metal Box and so on, because like somehow with Metal Box it was like we were in a position where all the tracks were recorded. It was like we went in there and all the tracks had been laid down already. Because all I remember doing with Metal Box was mixing, just not mixing, but you know, learning, just finding out what mixing was about, and you know, it was like a crash course in fucking production really, and not conventional production. Obviously, if we're doing it, it ain't gonna be fucking conventional. So I think there's, you know, whoever listens to this album can't fail to fucking react to it in some way or another. You know, it can't fail to do them some good. Anyone. Go and ask you something. Because I want to talk about all sorts of things, not just the music.
Yeah, sure. Well,
one thing I'm pleased about this album though is that we use instruments not because they're instruments, but because they have effects on you. Sounds that make you feel certain things, so that they were perfectly in tune with the song. That I like.
Yeah, like a banjo with 3 strings missing, and he was hitting it with something that was hanging off the banjo anyway, because it made that noise. That was used on Finargan. It wasn't like, you know, like, oh, we bring the studio to the fucking instrument man or anything like that. It was simply, you know, he was like annoying me all the time making that noise. And then he laid down a track making that noise, and then the next thing I know was this fucking great track called Lydon. And it's just, it's horrible really, you know, but it's really good the way it's come out, you know. There's a track with backwards guitar in it and all that, but they put that on later. It's more a use of sound album than any other album I know of, you know, like there's Ambient 17 and all that kind of thing, or whatever it's called. And that's all a load of bollocks to me. What that album, you know, those Eno albums and the bands that are associated, that I just can't think of their names now, and the people that are associated with all that crowd, you know, Fripp and even Bowie, but the way they talk about using sound and so on, and they go in their studio and they do all these beautiful ambient things, right? And I used to really like Heroes and Low. And I still like Heroes and Lydon. I think it's really good, but I still really think that they went about it in a real kind of old men's way, real fucking like old cunts. You know, they didn't break any barriers. You know, so there was a lot of restrictions there. Whereas the way we went about this album was just like, you know, a couple of kids just in the studio who were kind of programmed a bit with how, you know, they knew how to use it, so we weren't arseholes, we weren't breaking things, you know. But, you know, if an instrument was broken, it doesn't mean it didn't have to be used. It just meant it sounds like this now, we'll use it like this. You know, it's just a much more, all restrictions lifted. You know, I don't know, I mean, I had a hard time doing it at the time, but looking back on it, maybe my head was going through a hard time, and me, I wasn't having a hard time, I was just doing it, you know. But, I think all these people bringing out their ambient albums should take a listen to this, you know. Their bollocks off.
I mean, like people who profess to make stuff that's different, or like lately it's been this tribal thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's like,
that
ain't new, though.
coincided actually. Like when we did High Museum, that was the first kind of thing we did with that feel, and it was definitely right for the time and everything. And as we were doing this album, and it was coming out like it's come out, and it's definitely different to all this other stuff that's come up around it. Because I was walking on Westbourne Grove.
They're misusing the word tribal. I don't know what they're up to. But
Yeah.
If any in the ants think they've got a tribal
Yeah,
rhythm,
exactly. Yeah.
and they use two drummers, that feeble tin can noise
It's only fucking
that is impossible to
Gary Glitter
dance
in the
to,
80s, you know.
Yeah.
then I'm sorry, it's just not good enough. Not for me.